Hello people in my phone. Welcome to what I'm considering what I read in a week as a second year English Lit and creative writing student at university. I have got an extensive TBR for this week. I actually just filmed a TikTok doing the same thing, so I'm just gonna go this time, I think from the bottom up, because that makes the most chronological sense. I've got Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, Arthur Miller's The Crucible, Spirit Level by Seamus Heaney, which is a poetry collection, Villette by Charlotte Bronte, and then finally The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Now, I don't plan on reading all 5 of these in full this week, but I have got goals. So the first 3 that I showed you, Frankenstein, The Crucible, and the Seamus Heaney poetry collection, I would like to finish those in full this week. Villette, I'm on currently page 230 and I would like to get to page 350 if possible. And then there are only a few excerpts from the Canterbury Tales that I will be reading this week. So today is Monday, October 20th, so I'll give you a morning reading update. Last night I started to read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I read the 4, I think, letters that it starts with, plus the first 2 chapters. And I'm already having so much fun annotating this. I'll tell you my themes so that it makes a little bit more sense. I'm doing important and memorable quotes as per usual, ambition and the dangers of knowledge, the ethics of creation and the responsibility of creation and any maternal implications that this has, isolation and companionship and then the self-discovery that this leads to, and then beauty versus terror and the consequences of prejudice. And this is what they look like. I think this is so beautiful. I think it's so perfectly autumnal and I'm so glad that I can actually read this in October like I planned. I think it's so fun to annotate a book when you know the plot, especially when this derives from the fact that you've already read it before. I think that the first time I read Frankenstein was in my year 9 or year 10 English class, and as much as I do remember the plot of it, the only real memory I have of learning Frankenstein is the one incredibly intelligent boy in my class reading the entire thing in a heavy Russian accent. I remember that, and I remember it making classics for a load of 15-year-olds so much more enjoyable. So now coming back to this at 19, I feel like I'm really excited to read it and understand it better. I will have more intelligent ideas. I will undoubtedly write probably not a review, because who hasn't read Frankenstein, I feel. And also it's a classic. This is one of the classics, you know, so I wouldn't write a review, but I will probably write an essay or an article for my university newspaper. So something will come out of me reading this, if not anything else, but a shift into even heavier dark academia. So that's that. And today I would also like to get some of the Seamus Heaney collection read. I read the first 2 on the bus yesterday. It's only about 75 pages, so it's not going to take, I could read it in a day if I wanted, but I'm trying to take my time with poetry collections and read them as and when. So if I've got a spare 5 minutes, I'll read a couple of poems and continue that until I finish the collection. This one was actually kind of a gift. For the bookshop I volunteer at, the lady was talking to me and said, "Oh, do you like poetry?" And I said, "Oh, I wish." And then we were talking about Irish writers, and I read Storm on the Island for my GCSEs. That was one of my favourite poems from the anthology. So when I was leaving the bookshop yesterday, the lady I work for came and kind of threw this at me and said, "Read it. And then I'll bring it back when I'm back in on Sunday." I'm really excited to read this. I wish I could annotate it. I wish I could like mark my favourites, but I'll probably take pictures of them or show them on here. So yeah, that's where I'm at with my reading today. Monday is kind of my most busy day academically of the week. I've got 2 lectures, so I will bring you along with me for my day and show you what I read. I'll probably catch you next after my newspaper meeting this evening, so I will see you this evening. Hello again. I'm now back from the most back and forth day of university. I've got my 2 books here and a very yummy hot chocolate, and I thought I would tell you a little bit more about what I'm currently reading. So I took both of these books with me to my lectures today. I also took my copy of the Canterbury Tales with me to my Chaucer lecture this morning. Before that lecture I sat and I read some more of The Spirit Level. I've read probably another 7-ish poems and I haven't found one yet that particularly connects with me. In the process of trying to read more poetry, I'm also trying to come to terms with the fact that not every single poem in a collection is going to be for me. Obviously there will be some that I prefer more than others, and that's something that I hadn't really considered before. Of course with prose you tend to like the full thing or not, whereas with poetry collections I find that as much as I can appreciate the overall themes that the poets tend to use, unless it's a poet that I particularly like, there tend to be around 3 to 5 per collection that particularly stand out to me. I think I said this morning that with poetry collections I like to just bring them around with me and read some when I get the chance. So I'll continue carrying this around with me for the rest of the week and not stress so much about how much to read, but just connecting with all of them individually and trying to find one that I like the most. And then when I got back between my lectures I had a spare 45 minutes or so, so I read some more of Frankenstein. I read a few more chapters and this book is one that I think will take me longer than anticipated, simply because of the fact that I'm enjoying annotating it so much. Frankenstein is one of those classics that I think you will fully absorb yourself in whilst you're reading. The themes are so interesting and the ideas of academia and ethics and morality is something that there is so much to dissect, and ironically there's so much to dissect about the human beings in this book, both literally and figuratively. I think it's something that I will try and take my time with. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun annotating and adding my thoughts. I'm excited to finally have a physical copy of Frankenstein that I've written in, because I don't have any of my thoughts from the first time I read this. I just ran out of phone storage, but I'm back. So I think that my plans now for the rest of the evening is to continue reading Frankenstein, finish my hot chocolate, and then go to bed because I've got an exciting day tomorrow. Me and Connie are hoping to go to a pumpkin patch. It's a slightly longer bus journey, so we're going to be able to read on the way there and back, so I will be packing my books. And then we're going to come back and we're going to carve our pumpkins. So I'm really excited, but I'm also really excited for this evening. If all of my evenings for the rest of my life could be sat in a cozy room with a lot of lamps, hot chocolate and Frankenstein, I feel like I would be happy. Hello people in my phone. Today is Tuesday, October 21st, I think. And I went pumpkin picking. I didn't vlog very much of it this morning because I got distracted taking photos instead, but the photos came out really cute, so I'm pleased. I went with Connie and we each got 2 pumpkins. I got this little one which I just adore so much, and we got bigger ones that we could carve. Then we also got a relatively small one for our flatmate to carve. So we're gonna do that and then we're gonna light them this evening when we have dinner. So I'll put a picture up on the screen of what they look like when they've got the candles in them. I'm gonna make mine into a cat because my pumpkin is orange and stripy, which reminds me of the cat that I had. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna balance my little pumpkin up on my knee, but in terms of reading, because this is a reading vlog, on the bus to the pumpkin patch I read some more of The Spirit Level by Seamus Heaney. I'm currently on page 26, so I think this is going to be done with this for the day. I have got one that I particularly enjoyed about, St. Kevin and the Blackbird. I think it's so interesting to have this idea of humanity and someone who's been imprisoned and is kind of disdained in society, but they can still help the creation of life and have that influence on a wider community. And then again with the idea of imagination and the fact that him helping this blackbird is really a facade. I think that that is quite an intriguing concept on how much value we place on imaginative thought rather than actual actions. I think that in a world where perhaps the arts aren't appreciated as much as they could be, when there's such a priority on STEM, it's good to have this debate on whether or not the arts and the imagination have this value. And obviously, I think they have an incredible value on our day-to-day life and our wider society. I'm an English lit student, I'm a writer, and I used to be an artist, which is one of the saddest phrases I feel like I can say, but that is a fact. So I place such a high emphasis on creation and having physical copies of your work. So I just thought that was quite an interesting poem. That one definitely stood out to me the most from the collection so far. And then speaking of creation, I'm still reading Frankenstein. I'm about 120 pages in at the moment, and I'd like to get to page 150 this evening, because that would mean that then I finish reading volume 2 of this book, and that means that maybe tomorrow I can finish reading it. I'm just so in love with this book. I don't think I'm really going to have my full thoughts right now. I'm going to keep those for when I'm finished reading, but I'm having the absolute time of my life annotating this book. I would definitely be posting videos of my annotations. So yeah, I'm going to try and get to page 150. I've also got to do some work on some articles for my university's newspaper, so I will film bits and pieces. I will try and put in a clip of St. Kevin and the Blackbirds, because I think that is my favourite so far in that collection of poems. And yeah, I will update you probably once I'm finished reading Frankenstein. Hello people on my phone. Today is Thursday, October 23rd. I didn't film anything yesterday because I didn't go out at all. I stayed home all day. I did manage to finish reading Frankenstein, so later on I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that, but I'm in a bit of a rush at the moment because I didn't get out of bed on time. I've got a seminar in about an hour on the Franklin's Tale from Geoffrey Chaucer. So this morning I read some more of the Canterbury Tales. I've also marked it with the few tales that I have read, so that they're easy to access and the colours are ones that I'll remember. So I read some more of the Canterbury Tales this morning. The 2 books I'm taking with me to the seminar, knowing that I'm probably not going to read anything, I've got The Spirit Level and I've got Villette by Charlotte Bronte. I'm still torn on if I take Villette or not, simply because I think if I'm reading anything I will pick out a couple of poems from The Spirit Level. But now that I've finished Frankenstein, I would like today to get a slight amount of Villette read. But those are kind of my current reads and where I'm at in the week. And I'm really sorry for the noise, I'm going to be really quick. I want to finish reading The Spirit Level today, and then maybe another 50 pages of Villette, and then I've got other things to do, so that's where I'm at with my reading. Hi guys, it's evening, and I want to give you my thoughts and updates on these 4 books. I apologise if it's dark or if I'm quiet. It's like midnight, but I wanted to tell you my thoughts on these books regardless, and I've got all my thoughts written down on my iPad, so let's just start. So last night I finished Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and I gave it 4.5 stars. It was so good, like I knew it was going to be good. I think the only thing that put me off ever so slightly was at the end when it goes back to the original narrator in his letters on the boat. That dragged ever so slightly, but beyond that, the book was amazing. I think it was really interesting to have this dark academia, gothic world. Of course, Mary Shelley with Frankenstein is seen as the creator of this sci-fi novel, and I think it's so interesting, this genre. I like this genre, and I think this genre is so interesting regardless, but particularly in this one where alongside there's this fear and danger of violence, but also the repercussions of intellectualism. I mean, there are so many different avenues throughout this book for different philosophical examinations. There's the allusions to religion and God and this idea of playing the creator, and then also the maternal references that this has. The fact that women throughout this book are diminished. This deletion of women throughout the fact that the mother and the wife, and also the fact that Frankenstein himself is creating life, was so interesting to read. In reality, the book is just so painfully human. I wrote that, of course, there's this desire to have knowledge. Frankenstein's desire for intellectualism is really what drives the plot. He really wants to be remembered for his creations and his direction in science. And then beyond Frankenstein himself, there's these brilliant illustrations of humanity in the creature that he creates. Even despite the fact that he never has a name, the way that humanity is portrayed through him and the idea that so many of these different aspects of humanity are innate was so interesting. And truly, Frankenstein is such a classic. The way that Frankenstein permeated the world is honestly so crazy. The fact that it permeated through culture and literature and is still something that is so recognisable now. I can't even explain it. And then I read some more of The Spirit Level by Seamus Heaney. I read another 10 pages. I think that overall I just prefer short poems. I think I said this morning. I think I prefer the short poems because I think that these concise renditions of humanity and the human condition are so interesting. Then in the same breath I can say I remember enjoying reading Wordsworth and his poems, so I don't really know what it is about Seamus Heaney that I'm not enjoying as much as I thought I would. And I'm really unsure, but I think I will try and finish this tomorrow around my seminar. I know I said this morning as well that I read the Franklin's Tale. I've kind of reread that since my seminar this afternoon. I've also started my annotations, which are so much fun. So I'm really going quite in depth with my annotations. I'm primarily interested in the depictions of love because that is quite a common theme in medieval writing, but also in the depictions of freedom because that's what my assignment's on. So I'm torn between writing about the freedom of Averagus, which is the husband, or the Franklin, who is the narrator. I've planned both of those potential assignments and I've emailed my seminar leader and said, do you think I would be able to write about the narrator, because he's only really, of course he's narrating the whole thing, but he's only got his prologue and then like a conclusive statement at the end. So I've got enough to say, I just don't know if it would technically be allowed because then I'm not talking about Dorigen and Arviragus and Aurelius, but I've emailed and I've planned them both, so either way it's fine, and I will finish my annotations tomorrow. And then finally, I've not actually got any thoughts written down for this. I've read another chapter of Villette. I've just been so incredibly busy today and also this week as a whole that I've not really been reading as much as I feel like I want to. I feel like my literature and the things I'm currently reading are constantly on my mind, but I haven't got the time to sit down and read as much as I'd like. So I'm currently on page 250, which means I'm about halfway through. Of course, I know I said at the start of the video that I'd like to get to page 350 by the end of the week, which I know is only another 100 pages, but this is intense. The fact as well that this is my first Bronte is making it more intense, I feel, because I don't really know what to expect from their narrative. I am really enjoying it and I will keep reading it. Probably not tonight because, as I said, it's midnight and I'm tired. But probably on Saturday evening and then a little bit on Sunday, if I don't start The Crucible by Arthur Miller, which I'm so desperate to read. But I'm hoping that I can get those done because, I just love my books so much. I could sit here and talk about my books forever, and it's so intriguing reading so many books at one time and flicking between them, and it's not something I ever really do. I love to have one book. So I don't know what's happened this month. I just stuttered so much, but I'm going to go into more detail probably at the end of the video, at the end of the week, on my thoughts on reading so many books at a time. I read 3 books at the same time, not last week, the week before, and of course I'm reading 4 at the moment, and I've got so many more that I want to read that are so high on my priority TBR. So I feel like I've got thoughts, and I might do some journaling about that if I can find the time. It's probably got some reference in escapism and take me out of my brain, you know, so I will have thoughts. But for now, I think I'm going to sleep, and then tomorrow I will update you on what I've been reading tomorrow. So I will see you tomorrow. Hey, it is Friday, October 24th, and I haven't been as intense of a reader as I wanted to be, but I did do some reading. I read a little bit more of Villette this morning, not enough that I can comment. I'm hoping to read some more this evening. It's nearly 6 p.m. and I'm going out in a minute. I've just had a 3-hour poetry workshop that I actually spoke in. So if you've been here since last year and you knew that I don't talk to people, be proud of me, because I sat there and I put my hand up multiple times and I said, I've got something to say about prose poetry. Then before the workshop and in the break, I read some more of The Spirit Level. I'm currently on page 48, so I read another 10 pages. I don't really know why I keep reading it in 10-page increments. I've got maybe another 20 pages, so this evening, in a minute, I'm going to a bar on campus because my friend's band has a gig and we're going to go and watch him sing. We're going to get there early so we get a good table, so I'm going to take this with me and be a performative man and sit and, you know, like the YN stories where you go to a concert and you read a book. That's what I'm going to be giving. So hopefully I can finish this when I'm out so I can get back, have dinner, work on my assignment, and then spend the rest of the evening reading Villette by Charlotte Bronte. And then I will continue reading this weekend and potentially start The Crucible. I haven't decided, but I would like to get some more of this done because there's not much more time in October. We've got less than a week now, so I've got probably 250 pages left, which is really scary. So I'm going to read as much of that as humanly possible over this weekend. That's where I'm currently at. Hello, today is Sunday, October 26th, and I didn't film yesterday because did I read? No, I read not a single page. So I realise now that I forgot to film when I got back from the bar watching my friend's band perform, because do you know what time we got there? 6:30. Do you know what time his band went on? 8:30. So what time did I get back? About 10 p.m. So I don't really feel like in the mindset to go, you know what I'm going to do? A film. So I'm going to give you my thoughts today. Because we were there for 2 hours before the band started playing, I finished The Spirit Level by Seamus Heaney. I didn't find another poem in this that I loved, so I think the St. Kevin and the Blackbird is still my favourite, but I think overall I would probably give this about 2 stars. There were some interesting themes. I don't think the long poems in this form are for me. But I finished this. I did forget to film a clip of me finishing it for my TikTok, but I think that not filming one is pretty solid. Then because we were there for another hour and a half, I managed to get to page like 360 of Villette by Charlotte Bronte, which means that I went past my goal of the week. We're at an interesting point in this book now where a lot of the characters from the start that I thought were slightly irrelevant are coming back. It really confused me about 100 pages ago when I was like, we had 100 pages of backstory and these characters seem to have been completely irrelevant. But now it's kind of like all of the different unrequited loves and characters from not her upbringing, but like when she lived with a certain family, they're all in one big circle at the moment, and her reason versus her emotion is interesting to read. Her emotions are like nearly definitely getting the better of her, but also she seems like relatively unemotional. She doesn't seem to like people very much. But sorry, I don't know why I did peace signs, but she's also still very isolating and like wanting to isolate. She's very self-sabotaging, and it's just real. I'm interested to see where it goes in the final 200 pages. I'm not going to read tonight. I'll tell you what I'm reading like in the day. Last night I put together my themes to start The Crucible by Arthur Miller. So I've got important and memorable quotes, mass hysteria and the idea that individual conscience can go against higher forms of power and authority, lies and deceit and infidelity, reputation, honour and integrity, and then guilt and jealousy and how they can both impact behaviour. I probably won't get much reading done today. I'm going into town in a minute to do my volunteering, so I've got a few of the blind dates with the books to take back. So I'll go and I'll do my valuing and I'll pick up some more books to do some more blind dates for when I go into town on Wednesday. So really I will just be reading this on the bus to and from Canterbury City Centre. I will be back around 1:30 probably, and then I'm going to work some more on my assignment, and then I'm going to a house party this evening with my university friends for Halloween, so I'm going to do skeleton makeup because I don't have a costume. Also, for actual Halloween I'm going to be a cat, so can you tell this isn't my favourite season? Like, I love spooky season for the sake of it's autumn and I can read really good books, but Halloween is kind of boring. I'm gonna get like hated for saying that, but what can I say? This is what I'm gonna be currently reading, and I'm gonna finish editing now a reading update for my TikTok. So I will see you on the bus, and then I will see you in the Cricket House, the wonky bookshop. So I'll see you then. Hey, it's evening. I read maybe 3 pages of The Crucible today, so winning. But in those 3 pages we had the introductory stage directions of the house, references to religious contexts and some relationships, and I think that the way that Arthur Miller starts his plays is endlessly interesting. The commentary he has on the domestic sphere is endlessly interesting to me. I adore the beginnings of his plays, and the way that it's formatted. I have the Penguin Modern Classic of The Crucible and Death of a Salesman, so the fact that it's formatted the same and it looks the same is like so familiar. I felt the same with Babel and Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. They look the same, and I really like that when it's an author that I love and the way that they've structured their work is the same. So I think I'm going to really like The Crucible, but I didn't get much of it read today. So this will be the end of my vlog. I'm about to get ready for my Halloween party. So I hope you've liked it. This is what I can realistically read in a week as a uni student. I wish it was more. I wish I had more time to read, but unfortunately, even with only 8 contact hours in a week for my course, I'm just endlessly busy. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the return of university life. And I will post more reading vlogs because this was so much fun and I love it so much. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.